So my name starts with a C, so I'm the first one that actually has to talk here, which makes it not easy for me. No, don't. So as Thomas said, I'm the chief picture editor of Zeit magazine. And for those who are not familiar with Zeit magazine, it's the culture magazine and supplement of the German newspaper Die Zeit, similar to New York Times magazine, M from Le Mans, or if we go more locally, Das Magazin here in der Schweiz. I was asked to talk about me, my passion of photography and my background, so I think I start really early. I started as a photo student and I wanted to become a photographer. And while I was studying, I was producing more and more books and magazines, and I realized that I was more interested in working in the other side of photography. Not really on how I can take the best picture, more of who can take the best picture and how to work with them. So while I was studying, I was already working with other photographers, doing books and magazines that were including my photography, but also other people's photography. So my final exam was actually, and at that time I also started, while I was still studying, I started to work as freelance photo editor. And my final graduation work, I decided to work with my photography, but also with archive pictures and with pictures from other photographies. So in the end, I did a book about immigration and European borders that included everything that minus my work now that I work with now, because now since 2012 I work as picture editor full-time at Zeit magazine, and I'm not the photographer anymore. So now I want to give you a little inside look on how Zeit magazine works and how we work with photographers and photography. We do one issue per week. Zeit magazine has a special layout that works with two covers, a double cover, a first cover and a second cover, and the first cover always refers to the second. So that means we have 2 covers a week, 4 covers in a month. 8 covers in a month, over 50 covers in half a year, and over 100 covers in a publishing year. So it's many different covers and a lot of different stories behind the covers. And I would like to give you a little inside look how we use photography and in which sense we work with photographers. So the first one is a really easy one, is assigning photographers for normal work, like for portraits. This one was a little tricky because it's Cindy Sherman, and every one of us knows that Cindy Sherman is the expert in self-portraits. So we had to find a photographer that actually can work with Cindy Sherman and creates the portraits for himself. So this is a work of Pari Dukovic. He went to her studio and created his work together with her in the end, because she always wants to have a little talk when it's about her and photography. Then we also have different other aspects. This was a story about depression, and we had the text, but we didn't know how to work with it and what kind of photography to use. So we asked the photographer Lina Chenius to go through her archive and to find images that she thinks fit with the story. So in the end, we got over 50 images and created a piece with her together. So this was on the story on depression. Or another idea we had in the beginning of 2016 was that we wanted to do something for the Olympic Games in summer of 2016, and we knew that the young photographer Stefan Mooshammer is actually here now and taking part this weekend, was staying in Brazil, in Rio, and we gave her actually the carte blanche to work on a free project to do something in Rio which has nothing to do with the games. And she went to the favelas and she showed a different video on Rio, and we published it in the same week as the Olympic Games started. So this was a tricky one. This was also a portrait of Alexander Gauland. He is a leading politician of the right-wing populist party in Germany, the AfD. And there the question was, which photographer, how can you portrait someone that you don't want to show too pretty, too nice, but also not too normal? So in the end, I asked Peter Carden, a photographer that is actually more linked in the fashion photography, to work with him, and we together started to work on an idea to get a little too close to Mr. Gauland to find out how he actually looks. Another good example on how to work with photography and ideas and use the style and put other ideas into the style is this one. We have 2 food issues per year. This one was about baking, actually about the art of baking. And we asked Lorenzo Vittori to make sculptures. This is the normal way he works. So we asked him to make sculptures out of pastries and breads that we sent him from the 20 best bakeries in Germany. So in the end, this was our food special. This is a story. We also commissioned a lot of reportage stories, and we had a story about the freed women that were held by the Boko Haram, and sent a photographer and a journalist to Nigeria to cover the story. We actually asked them to cover the whole story, to photograph and find out about the situations, the circumstances, the kidnapping. But I also asked the photographer to have a special focus on the girls. He came back with amazing pictures, but also with portraits just of the girls. So in the end, we decided to not show the reportage images, but only show the portraits to speak for themselves. And we also do fashion, which perhaps is not my passion, but it can be fun once in a while. This was one where we had the model Letizia Custer, and we asked the photographer Kolja Shaw if she would be interested in photographing Letizia Custer for us. She actually was. She came to Paris. They had a day together. We had a whole shooting day with Letizia and Kolja Shaw. And in the end, Kolja Shaw, they both got along so well that Kolja Shaw used one of the images that were made for our fashion to use at her exhibition in Arles last year. So I hope this gives you a little idea of what picture editing means, that we use photography in different ways. And yeah, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them this weekend.